This is Rabbi and Son, hot takes on news, pop culture, and religion, and this is the audio edition, and I am Rabbi Patrick, and I am sitting here with Javon. Javon, how you doing?
Fine.
And Javon's my son, if you haven't figured it out after this amount of time, and we're doing something special. So our friends at Punk Torah on TikTok, if that exists anymore as of the recording of this audio presentation, seem to be doing really well with the Reddit AITAH. I think if you like Reddit, you know it's am I the blank blank. So these are questions that you have asked on Reddit and you have not asked us, but we're going to give our answers anyway. So here we go. We're going to start with, am I the blank for wanting to break up with my boyfriend because he's Jewish? Okay. So this boyfriend is 28. The girlfriend is 29. To be fair, he mentioned he was Jewish pretty early after we met, and he did mention he is expecting to marry a Jewish girl. But here's the catch. She is not Jewish, nor are our cultures anywhere close to each other, whatever that means. However, he is mostly fluent in my native language and loves my culture. So this got to be someone from outside the U.S. or something. Although in my late 20s, marriage has never really been a big goal of mine, so I didn't really care that we couldn't get married, mostly because I didn't think we would even be together this long in a relationship. Here's where it gets confusing. After about 6 months, he started saying, I love you, and we kind of just slipped into a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, which again, we're both okay with. We have now been together for a little over a year, and I do really love this man, and our relationship has been very good. Here's where it gets spicy. Recently, we had a pregnancy scare, and his reaction prompted this thought of, maybe we should break up, quote unquote. After I mentioned that I could be pregnant, his response was that if I was pregnant, he would have to hide it from his parents and that he couldn't have that lineage. I guess me not being Jewish would technically mean that the baby wouldn't be Jewish and his parents wouldn't approve of the baby or the relationship. I know I technically knew what I was getting myself into, but I've been on birth control the whole time, and I do not expect marriage from this. In my point of view, it's very unrealistic and quite frankly dumb to have sex and not realize that there's a chance of pregnancy, even though I'm on birth control. Also, I feel like he can hide me from his parents and society, but he can't hide me from God, which shouldn't be what's important to him. So tell me, Reddit, am I the blank blank? So, Javon, there's a bunch of Jewish things in here that I can unpack, but let's start with you. What do you think's going on here?
I don't unpack, like we said in the previous episode when talking about relationships. It is clear, and she acknowledges this in the post, that he said himself he wants to marry a Jewish girl, and she's not Jewish. That alone should have been like, you know what? Now I'm going to have to cut you loose.
Right.
It's time to go our separate ways. Boom, bam.
Right.
And like that lulling you into the and saying, I love you. Clearly he doesn't love you if he's not willing to, I don't want to say risk his relationship with his parents, but this is not his parents' life.
Right.
And if he really loves you, then you should be his foremost priority.
Right.
Instead of being like, oh, my parents are going to think this, my parents are going to think that. Do not ever, just general advice, if someone comes to you saying, my parents would never, you run the other way. You run the other way. Right. That is not a person that you want to be in a relationship with because they don't have control over their own lives.
Right. Yeah, so a bunch of things here. So obviously this person is like, this is not an American situation. You can just tell from the way it's written and talking about native language and all of this other stuff. So I think part of this is you're dealing with people who have a bit of a traditional understanding of what religion is, and a traditional understanding of Judaism, but live in a place where no one actually practices that. And that's common outside of the United States, because in America, this is a general observation of religion. I feel like in America, we don't participate in religious communities where we feel like the clergy are more religious than us, or maybe Catholicism would be the only example otherwise. I don't know. But I just feel like in America, we look for like-minded, similar lifestyle type people. outside of America, they're a lot more comfortable with the idea that they do not practice the religion the way that the most people do, or that the church does, or the synagogue, or the rabbi, or the pastor. So I think that's kind of part of it. So some of this stuff about like the baby wouldn't be Jewish and all that, that is Orthodox and conservative opinions. If you raise the child in the religion, in Judaism, in the Reconstructionist movement, in the Reform movement, the child's considered Jewish if the father is, or the mother for that matter. And all of it's irrelevant anyway, because we've talked about this before on this podcast. You can do a formal conversion for a child. It's similar to how you might baptize a baby in a church. So, I mean, come on. Like, seriously, I'm with you, Javon. I think this has nothing to do with religion. I think this has to do with a person who, in some way, is like, they're attached at the hip to the parents, and maybe they come from a traditional culture where, like, that's the norm, and maybe this person doesn't, or they're from a different culture that feels different. Who knows the details?
I don't know. I can't tell.
That's how I kind of sense it.
I don't know. When she said different cultures, I really thought like, I was gonna say like, East Asian.
Yeah, maybe
and
something
then like, but then and I was specifically thinking like Indian. Like, but then she said like she didn't really care about getting married, so that really threw me off. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking for.
Well,
here,
if this helps at all, and this maybe makes it a little more complicated, the person's username is Margs and Queso. So I would think Margs and Queso would be like American, because that's kind of like all-inclusive resort sounding like kind of name.
I would think like Latin American.
I mean, maybe I don't know.
I don't know. This situation is just, she needs to get gone. Like it was never going to work out. It was never going to work out. You said it yourself. You didn't even think you were in a relationship for this long.
Right.
But you still pursued the relationship, and then you allowed yourself to be made a fool of because you heard the words "I love you."
Okay.
It's.
I don't know if made a fool. That's a little bit strong.
No, she was made a fool of.
Okay.
Because it's like you knew you were incompatible, but then like you heard the "I love yous," and then it's like, oh, he loves me, I love him, and then like you go into this thing, and in the moment something comes up like this pregnancy scare, then it's oh, I think we should break up. Someone who loved you is not going to immediately think about breaking up.
They wouldn't do that.
So he only said, I love you because he liked what you were giving him.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So she was made a fool out of. People need to stop with the words and look at the actions. Actions speak louder than words. And he acted in a way, opposite of his word.
Right. Yeah. They were both looking for something. There's one Reddit user here who kind of says it, that it's a Azura 12, I think is how you pronounce that. NTA, so you're not the A. If you're both looking for something casual, that's fine. But you need to stress the importance of what happens in the case of something like this. What do you do? And that's, we don't, I don't think people have those kinds of conversations with the person they're with.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of need to, that, yeah.
And the more important point to all this commenter's point is that for the children, if they're around you, cover their ears or not. Like, they'll have to learn about birth and be someday. But it's wear condoms. If you're doing birth control, he wears a condom. Like, that's how it goes. You don't want to have a baby? Do things that prevent you from having a baby. Right. If not, have serious conversations. If y'all can't have a serious conversation, and the conversation's like, hey, this is not something that I want. Right. It's not something that I want to do. Right. And then that's when you part ways.
Well, on behalf of Oops Babies, I do think you have to have a conversation no matter what the circumstances.
I mean, but their parents are together and married.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But so I'm reading more about this person and the comments that the post, the OP is making, saying like, oh yeah, he mostly keeps kosher. But at the same time, like, his parents wouldn't accept someone who converted into it, which is a jerk thing. Like, that's when you...
Yeah, it's just doing a lot. Like, this is unnecessary stress.
Yeah.
On your life. Like...
If you're not pregnant, if you don't want to convert to Judaism, then you kind of know, like, what this is, right? And so, yeah, you're not the jerk. I mean, I will say, I will knock you down a point for the fact that you titled this "Wanting to Break Up with My Boyfriend Because He's Jewish." You don't want to break up with your boyfriend because he's Jewish. That is total clickbait.
Yeah, like, but I will say, not, the person in the wrong, but I will say she's a fool. She was a fool, like, foolishness is what I read in this whole entire thing. It's a self-acknowledging that y'all wanted two different things, but continue to pursue.
Right.
Like we talked about last episode.
Right.
Do not pursue a relationship with someone y'all have diverging ideals.
Right. Right. If you want a life that looks at a certain way, if he wants a life that looks a certain way, you two can certainly be attracted to one another. You can certainly want the best for one another. You can express love with one another. But if you say that you love someone and you want to build a life with them, then you're in a different, you're in a different area. And look, you've now learned he's not someone you can build a life with.
Exactly.
And okay, so good. So you're not pregnant. Like, you've learned something about him. It sucks that you had to learn it that way. That's really stressful. And I'm sure that was very frightening and very emotional. And I feel bad for you on that. You don't want to break up with your boyfriend because he's Jewish. You want to break up with your boyfriend because he ultimately wants something different than what you want. But it took something like this to get him to kind of, realize who he was and what he actually wants and how he feels. And unfortunately, you were on the receiving end of that, which is not.
Yeah, you were the fool.
Well, okay, I'm not going to use the word.
I am.
I think
I'm going to say with this
love
person,
is complicated.
I don't feel bad for this person.
Okay,
yeah, love in life is complicated, but like I said, she knew that they had different ideas. When someone tells you that they want to get married to a Jewish girl or a Jewish partner, and you're not Jewish, and that their parents will never accept you for being Jewish,
you should kind of know.
You should have been gone. Like, I'm not about to keep doing this. Well, I love this person. They didn't love you enough. But they didn't love you enough to be past that and grow together and carve out a new path. That's the ultimate point.
Yeah. I mean, but ultimately, she didn't even know that was part of the deal. This didn't come up until she had a pregnancy scare. So, like, I'm kind of going to give her a little bit of a benefit of the doubt on that one. They were trying to sort of step into, like, lightly, what could this relationship look like? But then ultimately they got hit with a truth bomb. And the truth bomb is this isn't going to work.
No. It wasn't going to work in the beginning. She knew that 6 months before the pregnancy scare.
She didn't know that.
Yes, she did. She said she knew. She said, 6 months, blah, blah, blah. He didn't want to get married, to someone who's not Jewish. He was looking for a Jewish girl.
No. That's not it. It was that they were having a situationship where the Jewish identity didn't matter. It's when they started kind of getting into the boyfriend, girlfriend and all of that, when suddenly, like, what shocks the whole system was getting pregnant. Now, I mean, I read it differently. I read it as they were both sort of going along with maybe this could be something. And then ultimately the pregnancy scare was where it was like, oh no, like this actually is not going to work out at all.
I don't know. From what I read and what you read to me, it sounded like he said from the beginning that he wanted to marry a Jewish girl. Correct or correct?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything in here about how he wanted to marry a Jewish girl from the beginning. Because it's almost like once she gets the pregnancy scare, that's when he says that maybe we should break up because I'm Jewish and my parents and blah, blah, blah. So, so I read this in a slightly different kind of way. He mentioned he is expected to marry a Jewish girl. No, you're right. I stand corrected.
Exactly.
I stand corrected. Okay.
So, yeah, she was...
Okay, then you know what? I'm going to give +1 to you on that one.
See,
I was looking past it.
You can never lead with your heart, lead with your head, because leading with your heart, you get hurt feelings. That's the end of my TED Talk.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, Rabbi and Son, thank you so much. We got more of these coming down the pipeline. Enjoy. Thank you to our sponsors at Darshan Yeshiva for making this content possible. Darshan Yeshiva provides beginner-level online Jewish learning, including the very popular Conversion to Judaism program, with sponsoring rabbis and students all over the world. Start your Jewish journey any place, anywhere, and anytime with our conservative, reform, reconstructionist, Jewish renewal, humanistic, and post-denominational rabbi mentors. Become the Jew you always wanted to be with Darshan Yeshiva.